On today's Locked On Giants podcast, Ed Valentine of Big Blue View checks in as we get you ready for the annual NFL draft kicking off on Thursday night. That's coming your way next here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm Patricia Traynor, your host, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for Giants Country over on the Fan Nation Network, part of SI.com. And a special welcome in to my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And please, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Click that little notification bell and like the video. It all helps us out tremendously. And on today's Locked On Giants podcast, as promised, I have the one, the only, the beautiful Ed Valentine of Big Blue View. We're going to talk Giants. We're going to talk draft. And we're probably going to poke at each other like we normally do because that's just how we roll here. So, Edward, welcome on in.
Oh, thank you, Patty. That's just what we do. You out of breath now?
I'm out of breath, yes.
You're out of breath now? I was like, that's a long in journalism they'd call that whole intro a run-on sentence, Patty. That was long. But
at least I remembered all of it.
There you go.
But
there you go.
But
right.
Anyway,
how
Ed,
you doing?
I'm doing well. It is draft week. Finally, the end of the mock drafts. Thank goodness. The end of the speculation, the rumors and everything. And Ed, let's take a look at where the Giants are at. You know, we'll talk a little bit about what Joe Schoen had to say last week at his draft, the pre-draft press conference, and see if we can, logically come up with some ideas as to what this team might be leaning towards. And I want to start with what jumped out at you when you heard Joe Schoen speak.
Well, there's two things, Patty, and it's not necessarily just Thursday. It's what Joe has said the entire offseason in regards to Daniel Jones. He's continually said that he has confidence in Daniel Jones as his starter for 2024. Not once has he said he has confidence in Daniel Jones as the long-term answer at quarterback for the Giants, for this football team. Not once has he said that, which to me that screams, if I can get a quarterback, if I can figure out a way to get a quarterback, I'm going to get one. The other thing that he said that sticks out to me as him realizing he may not be able to get that guy, at least not the one he wants right at the top of the draft, is him talking about knowing they're not one or two players away, knowing they have other needs, and knowing that he has to have a walkaway number. He's only got 6 picks. He can't mortgage the entire draft and throw 2024 away. So I think he wants a quarterback. The question is, does he have enough to go get one, or will he be fortunate enough to have one fall to him at 6?
Yeah, we talk about the draft picks. A lot of people seem to be of the opinion, trade down, get more assets, build up the roster. And I made a point yesterday on my show. I said, while having an abundance of draft picks is not necessarily a bad thing, it's what you do with those picks. Like, for example, if you remember after the 2004 trade for Eli Manning, the Giants had 4 picks the following year, and 3 of those picks, Corey Webster, Brandon Jacobs, and who was the other one? There was another one. Gosh, I'm forgetting now.
Was it Chris Snee that year? Was it Snee? I don't remember, but they had 4 picks, and 3 of them turned out to be home run picks.
Yes, 3 of them turned out to be key players. Snee might have been 2004, if I'm
Yeah,
not
I
mistaken.
don't remember who the third pick of that group was, Patty. I'd have
Yeah,
to look it up, but there were 4 picks,
right.
and 3 of them turned out to be really, really good, really
Really,
key
really good.
players to those
So
championship teams.
right. The point being though is it's not how many picks you have, it's what you do with those picks. So I
And
mean, that
Patty,
being
if I can, the example, the flip side of that is I think we all supported the idea of the trade down that Dave Gettleman made a couple of years ago. All right.
yes.
I think we supported that, but he gave up on the opportunity. And this is something Gettleman always used to say as his reason for not trading down is you have to be careful about what you give up on. He gave up on the idea of drafting Micah Parsons or the idea of drafting Rashawn Slater for volume. And what has he done with that, or what has become of that volume? Kadarius Toney, Evan Neal, maybe Daniel Bellinger is the best player out of all of that volume that the Giants have gotten. And
Mm,
and in theory, it's nice, and I always support the idea of taking more swings. I always one of my things is trade down, not up whenever you can. But when you give up on a great player, on a single great game-changing player, you better get it right with the picks that you take subsequently. And in that case, the Giants to this point have not gotten it right.
right. Right. And that's a good point. And just to fill in the holes, Chris Snee was 2004 and 2005. I'm just looking it up real quick here. 2005, Corey Webster, Justin Tuck, Brandon Jacobs. Those were the 3. I forgot Tuck.
Tuck was the one I forgot as well.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
he's bigger and stronger than us, Patty.
Yeah.
Let's make
So
sure he doesn't find
let's
that
not
out.
forget him again.
Let's
But
not find it. Let's not let him find out that we forgot about him.
no, it's all good. Hey, Giant fans, let me tell you all about my fantastic experience with our friends over at GameTime. So, as many of you know, I'm a big Kiss fan, and there was no way that I was going to miss the band's final performances last winter at MSG. But as you can probably imagine, tickets were hard to come by, let alone affordable seats. Well, thanks to GameTime, I not only found the tickets I wanted, I got them for less than I would have had to have paid other sites, including one set that I got on a flash deal. And how cool was it that I got to see what my view of the stage would look like before I made the commitment to buy? These are just a few of the reasons why I trust Game Time when it comes to getting tickets to my favorite concert shows and sporting events. And I'll give you one more reason to trust them: event cancellation protection. Last winter, Kiss's frontman was battling the flu, and there were some doubts about whether those last shows would even go on. But I had nothing to worry about thanks to Game Time's event cancellation protection. You're going to love Game Time, folks. Their prices are so competitive that if you find tickets in the same section and row for less elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So go on and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code Lockon NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Terms apply. Hey, Giant fans, the Locked On NFL mock draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft is available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. A lot of people feel that the Giants should trade up to get a quarterback. And you mentioned that, and I agree with you that Shane has kind of worded things very carefully to suggest that, look, I'm okay with Daniel Jones this year, but that's as far as he's willing to go. So that being said, there's no really true consensus other than maybe for Caleb Williams, who the Giants never had a shot at anyway. But beyond that, there's there's no consensus as to who the next best quarterback is. So that all being said, should the Giants trade up, is there a guy that you feel that they absolutely, is a perfect fit for what they do, that they absolutely positively have got to move heaven and earth to get?
Well, Big Blue View readers, listeners to my show have accused me over and over of having a love fest with JJ McCarthy. And that's not necessarily true. I think what I've tried to point out is the reality of the idea that JJ McCarthy might be the option that the Giants have if they sit there at 6. I think, Patty, and I'm just reading tea leaves here. I'm not inside Joe Shane's brain. He's not texting me every day with what his plans are. But if you read the tea leaves, if you look at what Joe Shane and Brian Daboll were part of in Buffalo, the guy who physically reminds of Josh Allen, all the physical traits, the arm strength, the size, the running ability, although maybe not quite as much running ability, plus the style of game, all of the questions about the quarterback, accuracy, decision making, coming out of college. The parallels between Josh Allen and Drake May, for me, are too much to ignore. I think that if the Giants have a chance at Drake May, they'll go for it. I don't know that they're going to be able to get it. I mean, the reports today were that the Patriots, who have the 3rd pick, want an unprecedented deal to get that 3rd pick. I don't think the Giants can do that. I think the guy would be McCarthy, but I think it's very, very difficult for the Giants to get him unless the Patriots happen to love McCarthy more than May.
Yeah, I don't know. JJ McCarthy, I don't hate him as a prospect. I just don't know that I would love him at 6 and higher. But,
I and I certainly understand that, Patty, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's not even there at 6. I just don't know.
probably won't be.
McCarthy's such a big wild card, in terms of who takes the McCarthy plunge. But if it's Drake May that the Giants really want, I think it's going to be really, really difficult for them to go up and get him.
Yeah, I would agree on that. So that being said, if the quarterback isn't there, given how Joe said this is a very deep receiver class, do you stay at 6 and you take one of the big 3 receivers who I'm sure will be there, at least one of them? Do you trade down and say, look, this is a deep class. I can trade down, I can get some more picks, and I can still get my receiver a little later on?
Well, it's interesting, Patty, because just on Monday, and I know you did this a while back, but just on Monday, I posted my look at those 3 scenarios: trade up, stay put, trade down. And where I landed is this. If you can make a small trade down, if the Titans want to come up 1 pick and guarantee that they get Joe Alt, if they think there's people sniffing around who want Joe Alt, if the Titans want to come up 1 pick, if Atlanta wants to come up a couple of picks and get a position player who's not a wide receiver, maybe you do that. And I'm always a guy that supports the idea of trading down, but the Giants need that game changer. They just lost Saquon Barkley. I don't think Darren Waller's going to play in 2024. My gut feeling, Patty, is if it's taken him this long to make up his mind, then he's not fully committed to football anymore. So I think they need that game-changing player. If it's me, I want to make sure I get one. So if it's me, maybe that tiny trade down, but I'm not trading out of the top 10 because I want that number 1 wide receiver. And I thought it was interesting, Patty, because you've sat in those pressers with Joe the last couple of years. And we've been asking Joe about the wide receiver for the entire length of his time as Giants GM. He's always downplayed it. He's always said, "Oh, look at all the playoff teams that don't have a number one wide receiver, and look at all the number one wide receivers who are sitting home watching the playoffs on television." What did he say this year? He said, "A number one wide receiver can make a big difference." He said, "Especially the way we're constructed now
Mhm.
with the players that he has." I don't think Joe, I would be surprised if Joe takes himself out of position to get one of those big three. I mean, we can talk about Keon Coleman and Brian Thomas and Adonai Mitchell and that second tier that people talk about. But if he can get one of those big three, I would be very surprised if he moves himself out of position to do that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's been some talk. Will it be Malik Neighbors? Will it be Roma Dunze? Will it may even be Marvin Harrison Jr.? I personally am hoping for a Dunze. I mean, I'd be happy with any one of those
Patty,
three, but a Dunze would be my pick if out of the three.
how am I not surprised that you and I agree on that, Patty? How am I not
Great minds
surprised?
think alike.
I've been banging the Adunze drum for 2 months now. Now look, I mean in my last mock draft, I took Marvin Harrison.
Mhm.
Okay. But if the choice Malik Neighbors was off the board and Harrison and Adunze were there, and I took Harrison. But look, if the choice is Neighbors and Adunze, I'm taking Adunze every time.
Yeah,
I
I'm
I
with you.
think I think I have concerns about Neighbors not necessarily on the field. I
Mhm.
have concerns about Neighbors in the big city. I have concerns about some of the things that Neighbors has said. I mean, he went a few weeks ago. He basically said something to the effect of, "Well, if the Giants draft me, they know they need to take care of the quarterback situation." In other words, throwing Daniel Jones under the bus before he even got to the Giants.
Yeah,
And
that didn't sit well with me
that
either.
didn't sit well because that's diva kind of behavior. And
Yes.
and not only do I love Roma Dunze's skill set, what he did at the combine, the work he did at the combine, staying on the field, after all of his tests were over, um, to try to improve his three cone time. He did it like 10 times over and
Yeah.
over and over to try to get it right. He talks about wanting to be great. He talks about wanting to be a Hall of Famer. And I think what he's showing is that he has the work ethic and the understanding that he has to put in the work to do it. And that is tremendously appealing to me.
As it's to me, amongst other things about him.
Hmm.
And let's talk now about how the complexion of this Giants draft might take shape. Now, I am of the opinion you've got 6 draft picks, okay? I think that maybe the first 2 out of the first 3 will probably be offense, but I can't help but shake the feeling that this is gonna be predominantly a heavy defensive draft for the Giants, given, they need a cornerback too. They probably could use another safety. They could use an interior defensive lineman, maybe get another pass rusher if you can find one. Do you agree that that could be that makes the most sense for them, or do you think it's going to be a split, or is it going to be heavily favored towards the offensive side of the ball, which was the offense being so bad as it was last year?
Amazingly, we disagree on this one, Patty. How
Whoa!
about
We'll
that?
be taking
Amazingly,
time,
we
folks.
disagree. So I think, Joe was very clear the other day that the Giants need to score more points. Very clear. And I think that he's probably going to opt for guys he thinks can help them do that, wherever possible. I mean, maybe that changes if he gets his wide receiver one at 6. Um, I don't know what they would do about quarterback at that point. I keep coming back to be honest with you, people talk about Bo Nix, people talk about Michael Penix. I keep coming back to Spencer Rattler. I
Mm.
keep coming back to Spencer Rattler. And to be honest with you, I'm going to put my marker down and say if those top 6 quarterbacks go off the board and the Giants don't get one, Spencer Rattler doesn't get past 47. That's, I don't think that's my take. That's my guess. But I also think you probably have to add a running back. You might want to add a tight end. I don't know that the Giants feel any desperation to add an offensive lineman because they've
Mm.
added so many veteran free agents. I would like to see them do that. I would definitely like to see them continue to add to that offensive line room. There's so many ways they could go because you look across the roster, as you said, you mentioned all the defensive needs. I think a cornerback they think could at least compete to be a starter is a must. And so there's so many needs, as you said, across the board that I tend to feel like they want to build that offense, but and they made their big splash move for Brian Burns already. But Dexter Lawrence needs help on that defensive line. They need a corner. They could use a safety. So I don't know. I tend to think it's offense, but it might also be, after if they're able to knock off the quarterback and wide receiver positions, it might just be, as Joe said, let the board talk to us and let's see who's who's at the top of the board for the rest of the picks. One thing I do think though, Patty, I think Joe's going to play at least one of those day 2 picks. I think he's going to play one of those picks to trade down and try to get more swings.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I mean, now the reason why I think it's going to be more defensive heavy is um you have if you get a number 1 receiver that could lessen the need for a tight end because you got bodies at tight end. We keep forgetting about Daniel Bellinger. He's not as athletic as Darren Waller, but he's not, exactly a scrub. So,
Underused last year, Patty. Underused
yeah, he
because
was
of the
underused last
situation.
year, absolutely. I mean, blocking's gotta improve, but they added a bunch of blockers in free agency. Offensive line, I would like to see them get a developmental offensive tackle, but who knows? Maybe they pick one up as an undrafted free agent. Running back, I get the feeling they might be set there. It's gonna be the committee, so they might be set there. I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's more of a the defense is screaming out just as much as the offense. And the offense, obviously, quarterback, wide receiver, those are the 2 positions they got to come away with, in my opinion. So, all right, Ed, let me ask you this. What do you think would be the decision that the Giants make or don't make that would absolutely break Giants Twitter?
Oh, that one is so easy, Patty. That one is so easy.
Say it with me.
Trading up for JJ McCarthy. That would break Giants Twitter. It would force me to go to Big Blue View and turn off comments for the next month, probably. But listen, here's how I feel about that. And once again, people will say, "Oh my God, Valentine, he loves JJ McCarthy." I've been because he's been banging the McCarthy drum forever. And look, the reality of it is, we can argue about, and I know I had this discussion with Emery Hunt a while back on my show. Do you draft the quarterback first and then try to build the roster around him, or do you quarterback proof the roster and then plunk the quarterback in, when you think the roster's ready? And my answer to that is, look, it depends on whether you love the quarterback or not. If there's a quarterback in front of you that you love and you have an opportunity to draft him, you go draft him, whether your roster is quarterback ready or not. if you have that guy within your grasp that you think can be your guy for the next 10 years, you take that swing. And I don't know if Joe Shane and Brian Daboll see that guy as JJ McCarthy, or, I don't know. I don't think so. But if they do, then go ahead and take the swing. If it breaks Giants Twitter, if it annoys 3/4 of the fan base, it doesn't matter, because all of those people who are screaming, "Oh, that's a terrible pick," all of those people who are screaming that, look at what they're doing in Buffalo. Fans in Buffalo were up in arms. They were ready to throw, Brandon Beane over Niagara Falls when he made 2 trades up to take Josh Allen. Nobody's complaining about what they did now. Nobody's complaining. They're complaining that they haven't been able to support him well enough. If the quarterback hits, nobody's going to care what they paid. So, I mean, if he's a bust, then Joe's going to get fired. But if the Giants don't start to win soon, Joe's going to get fired anyway.
Mhm.
So if he loves JJ McCarthy, take the swing. If he loves Drake May, take the swing. But if he doesn't, just build the roster.
And he
And
raised a good point there, because there are 2 schools of thoughts. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They go and they get a generational talent at quarterback. I mean, their roster was pretty good, but they go and they get this generational talent in Patrick Mahomes. And then you look at the 49ers, who have a loaded roster, and the quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant there, and Brock Purdy. So there's 2 schools of thought as to how you approach building a roster. So that being said, given where the Giants are, would you agree that it makes more sense to build up the roster, and then, with the quarterback, get, one of your guys? I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Giants have a priority list as to which guys they want. And if you should whiff on the guy, try again in a couple of years, because it's, I mean, the class won't be as deep as it is this year, but it's not like you won't get another crack at some point to add a quarterback, because chances are, if you don't get it right, you're going to lose anyway and have a high pick.
that's, Patty, that's why this is so hard. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll have to look at this too, and I hate to be political about it, but Joe and Dabe's, you say, well, you can get another swing in a couple of years, but can they? Can they really? If they don't take the swing now and they're bad for 2 more years, isn't it gonna be a different GM who's gonna get that swing?
True.
So you have to wonder too, if part of their thinking is, we may not, if we don't do it now, do we get another swing to get our guy and build this franchise around the guy that we think is the right one? Whether they do that in the first round, or whether they take a Spencer Rattler or whoever later on in the draft, and to give themselves a potential opportunity, that has to be part of their calculus. It's human nature for that to be part of their calculus, that, for them to sit there and think, this may be the one chance we get to make this call, in the positions that we're in.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things beyond what our favorite sports teams do or don't can really start to get to you. It's important to let all that out, especially to someone who can offer a fresh perspective. Therapy can be different for everyone. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Simply fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a therapist. And if you don't find that your therapist is a match, you can switch for free. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Hey, Giant fans, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Ed, if you're making the call for the Giants on Thursday night, what do you do and who do you pick?
Oh, Patty, that's so hard because we obviously don't know, what's going to happen in front of us, but I can't go up. I can't do it because I can't throw away 2024. As much as I think it would be nice to get Drake May, I can't give the New England Patriots next year's number one, a day 2 pick next year, maybe 2 first round picks, beyond this year. I can't give up that much because then I'll never be able to support the quarterback. I'll just never be able to do that. If one of those quarterbacks falls to 6, Patty, I have a hard time saying no. I mean, if it's McCarthy or May, I have a hard time saying no. Um, if if none of those quarterbacks is there, I'm very, very happy to take Rome Odunze and walk away. I'm just, I'd be fine with that. But I just don't think the Giants are going to be able to trade up. But like I said, I think I'd be very happy to take Rome Odunze. If Marvin Harrison somehow falls there, then I'm taking Harrison. But other than that, I'd be very happy to take Odunze, get that number 1 wide receiver, get that contested catch guy, get that guy that can make my quarterback better, and go from there.
All right, final question for you because we haven't really discussed this a lot, and I don't think it's been discussed on the whole by all the draft analysts and those of us who cover the Giants. But could you see, and do you think it makes sense for a scenario in which the Giants stay at 6, they make their pick, whether it be quarterback or receiver, and then look to trade up from maybe the second round, maybe to get back into the bottom of the first round. So this way, whatever position they don't get, whether it be, let's say they get the receiver, now they trade back into the bottom of the first round, get one of those quarterbacks that are falling. This way you put the receiver and the quarterback on the 5-year plan that comes with a first round pick. Do you think that that's a possibility, and does it make sense?
Absolutely, I think it's a possibility, Patty. Why not? Let's say you get the quarterback, and it's a deep wide receiver class, but Matt Waldman of the rookie scouting portfolio, Emery Hunt of Football Game Plan tell you that they think there's a difference once you in the wide receiver class, once you get past the quote unquote second guys, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas. There are some people who think Brian Thomas, the number 2 receiver at LSU, could be a better pro than Malik Neighbors. And I don't know. Everybody talks and every scout sees something different. Who knows what's going to happen? But if you look at those 5 guys and you think, there's a separation from those 5 guys to the rest, then sure, go get that guy. Give up 47 and 70 and go get that guy. Or if you get your wide receiver and you really think Bo Nix is a guy that you want to give that 5th-year option and you think could be a starter for you, sure, go make that move. I have no problem with that at all, and I can certainly see that. The 2 first-round picks. People ask me sometimes about the 5th-year option, and I'm not so sure it's got tremendous value at a lot of positions, but I think it's got tremendous value at the quarterback position because of the expense of what it takes if you're intending to give that guy a second contract. I think it's got tremendous value for the quarterback spot.
Not to mention if you decide to sit the quarterback for his rookie season, which I believe the Giants will do if they do take a quarterback.
Absolutely.
All right, Ed, before we wrap it up, give everybody a rundown as to what you're planning for later this week. I'm sure you're going to have wall-to-wall draft coverage, so tell everybody what you got planned.
Oh, the biggest thing coming up, Patty. I mean, it's like you said, it's wall to wall Monday at Big Blue View. I did my look at trade up, trade down, stay put scenarios. We've been giving folks all kinds of mock drafts. Chris Flum is up to, I think the last time I counted, he's up to 105 prospect profiles now. We'll be doing 2-a-days on prospect profiles. NFL teams don't do those anymore, but Chris does at Big Blue View. So we'll be doing 2 profiles a day. Our Big Blue View big board posts later on this week. I'll have all kinds of content, on the Big Blue View YouTube channel as well. So we'll just be wall-to-wall draft coverage for the next week, Patty, as you will, on your show here and at Giants Country.
Yeah, straight through to the weekend, and like you said, right into the following week, and it's going to be a very busy time. But look, it's kind of like you're coming to the end of the series of your favorite television show, and you're going to find out how everything wraps together. And I can't wait because, like I said, I'm all mock draft out. I don't know about you.
There's only one thing that's certain, Patty. We're coming to the end of the cycle of arguing about what the Giants should do. And then we're going to enter the next cycle of arguing about what they did. So
Exactly. You're never going to please everybody. I mean,
Nope.
it's rare that they please everybody. But anyway, Ed, thanks as always for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time to spend time with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Giant fans, thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast. Make sure you keep it here all week long, including into the weekend. I will be pumping out content for you, video shorts, all kinds of stuff. Also, make sure you're checking out the work we're doing over on Giants Country, si.com/NFL/Giants. For Ed Valentine, I'm Patricia Traina. Giant fans, we'll see you tomorrow here on the Locked On Giants podcast.